Allow me to introduce our guest. That is one Kamau Wambiu. Ni mambo niacha kusema one Kamau. So, good morning, guys. We have Kamau Wambiu, Chair National Youth Caucus, and also he is joined in studio by Mundalo M Advice, MD 2 Sense Leadership Institute. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning to you too.
Let's talk about tea. I see you're having something in your cups. I hope it's tea.
Yeah, it is.
Or is it coffee?
It is.
But whatever it is.
Yes.
Karibuni tena sana.
Asante.
Si mna enjoy your chai?
Kabisa.
Si ni tamu sana?
Exactly.
Iko na sukari, ukitaka honey pia iko, ukitaka vanilla flavored tea iko. Yeah, and it's a good thing, sidio?
Yeah.
Si watu kwa serikali wapatiwe chai pia?
Asante sana.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
You see, before we do the introduction, my name is Kamau.
Yes.
But before we do the introduction, let us answer you first.
Yes.
This is good, and it's good that Radio Generation is hospitable,
Right.
and providing hospitality to its guests. It's just like the same way I can come to your house. I come, and if you're good enough and generous enough, hata maji, hata Yesu alipewa maji,
Si ndio?
you get.
Hey.
But that is at your house.
Yes.
The more you can do is the much that you can do to that guest is to give them something
Yes.
to take to eat or
Kwanza,
to drink
kwangu
in a government institute.
Yes.
Rather, that is not tea. That is that is I don't know the words to use now, but I will use them later. But it is not right.
Oh, really?
Okay, it is not right.
You don't think people
Beba chai kutoka kwako,
Yes.
unalipwa, umekuja kazi, hauja kuja hoteli. Ati ni chakula tunakula, sijui mandazi nini. No, if you go and buy outside.
So as an employee of Gava,
or as an employee of which private institute do you hear them making tea, and do you hear them doing lunch?
okay.
You get, and if they do, it is from their salary. It is taken from there.
Okay.
So hizi theatrics the government, you know them, we have been there. Hizo ni jaba chai. How do you hear chai of ikaya huku State House? How many employees do State House have?
Yeah. They spend remember, is it 3 billion per year on
mandazi.
tea?
Unajua gluten, that is poisoning people. Gluten ya 3 billion. Taka watu wanone waishe.
Kwangu kikuju utakula kuku. Advice Mundalo.
Yes,
good morning.
Morning.
And welcome to Radio Generation.
Asante.
Yeah. What do you think about government, tea in government offices rather?
I really have no problem with the tea anywhere because I really believe employee motivation is something that is fundamental, and it should be able to happen everywhere.
Thank you.
So we cannot be able to really substitute that. Every employee, whether government employee, and if anything, government should actually be the best employer.
Yeah.
Because what the people expect from government is service delivery.
True.
So the person working in government should be at the optimum level to be able to serve the Kenyans the best. Remember, governments are not one of the best paying people. So most of the people who actually work for government, they actually earn peanuts. The problem is when we want to think about the problem of corruption in government, and then we think to solve it, we punish the clerk who is not anywhere concerned with the corruption. That person serving you, the receptionist in government, the clerk in government, the accountant in government, maybe the accountant not, but the normal employee in government who is earning a modest between 30,000 shillings to 50,000 shillings, they have no business with the mega scandals that you would be seeing.
True.
So there's no problem them having tea. I don't see a big deal with it. The big deal would be if then the tea is now priced at a level that is now exorbitant. And even when that happens, that clerk is not the beneficiary. That person is not the beneficiary.
How do you know they are not the beneficiary?
The person who is the beneficiary, because corruption works in conduits. It's procurement, it's accounts, it is the supplier. That person seated on the reception there is just taking the tea. So what we should fix is the corruption in the tea and not the tea itself.
Let me ask you something. How many people does the government employ?
Very many.
Number, fanya Google. How many people does
I think about 1 million.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now, you are arguing that these million people who are paid a salary should, in addition to the salary, be given tea.
Yes, why not?
Really?
Umeambiwa that money haitoshi.
It is, there are two facets to it. One, the tea, if it were just tea, would actually not even raise an argument. But any government service that is extra to what it is that the government is supposed to do is a conduit for corruption, is a conduit for all manner of things. Otherwise, we would not be discussing it. Secondly, there's the moral aspect of it, where you have people who are old, need assistance. You have people who don't have jobs. You have people who are destitute. There are people in this country, the number is probably heading towards 5 million, who honestly do not know if they're going to eat or not. They don't have this job, which, as you state, people are paid poorly. It's a job.
Yeah.
By the time 1 million people want that job, it is better than nothing. In fact, it's much, much, much better than nothing.
True.
It's beyond even a living wage. So the point I'm making is, we're not discussing hospitality, and we're not even discussing welfare. We're discussing what avenues of this nature mean in our country. We were discussing travel, and we're discussing things that have to do with travel and why it is always a pain. There was an attempt by the government to pretend that they had stopped things like travel. In this day and age, when you have Zoom and you have Skype and you have all these things, do you really need to go to Dubai to have a meeting? You can have that meeting while sitting in your desk, wherever it is that you work.
And have some tea.
You know, there is absolutely nothing wrong with drinking tea.
Yes.
But we do not live in a country where we have an excess of revenue, an excess of wealth, where we can indulge people who are already being paid a salary to have tea.
But we have wastage and we have corruption.
Are you for once thinking about the person who is employed in that office courtesy of tea? Because we have a person who also has a job in that office because they are a tea girl. And I also think about the supplier who gets some job because then there is something to supply for that tea. So that at the end of the day, the tea is not the problem. The problem is the corruption in the tea. So that is what we should be fixing. We cannot be able to say. Plus, we cannot be able to say that that we have a problem with a beverage simply because
it's not just the beverage. It is not just the beverage. That's really the problem.
You know, my elder, I was very silent when you spoke.
Oh, no. I'm going to
give me right of reply.
No, I am inviting you to interrupt me when I'm speaking as well. So please understand the point you're making. I have understood. Okay? I want you to understand the ecosystem within which this idea of tea in government exists. It's not the tea.
Yeah.
I want you to understand when an issue is raised about travel, the ecosystem within which that particular discussion is
so when it's not tea, what is it? Because tea can only be tea. There are not two teas. Tea is just a beverage. So the thing is, and I anchored it on employee motivation, because you see, we can't be able, let's not also have a mentality of thinking that when you work for government, the more you suffer, the more government it is. No, it is the same culture that makes it look as though when you work for government, you should look untidy, you should look like very problematic, and then
that wear a nice suit.
You shouldn't wear a nice suit, and therefore that is synonymous.
Have you worked for the government?
To working for government? So
have you worked for the government?
I have worked in government before.
Yes,
and
these values that you're speaking of, where exactly are they espoused? Where it is said that when you work for government, you have to be untidy, wear tired-looking suits.
It is assumed.
Who assumes it?
Because
let us stop assumptions. No. Listen,
we want to just run away from reality. But what is the normal Kenyan thinking of a teacher? What is the normal Kenyan thinking of a policeman? What is the normal Kenyan thinking of a normal civil servant? So the issue is, let us stop the mentality that when you work for government, the more you suffer,
what they think about themselves.
The more you suffer does not mean the better you are. And plus, the thinking that just because it's a job and everyone wants it, therefore you should be at your worst. But I think that's backward, because city today, there is someone, if a young person today,
already employed,
if a young person today knows the salary of city, someone would say it is excess. Another person would say, do you know that salary can hire about 10 young people? So does that make the argument that then city should not be here, so we should have 10 young people and have city at home?
Gentlemen,
does it then justify?
I think
so. For me, employee motivation is not something that that should be excused.
Yeah. I think
anyway,
I think we're losing, and advisor here has driven his point. One thing, it is very justifiable that let us have employee motivation.
Okay.
But in our country, tusidanganyane, tusibebane ujinga. You know, let us not go around tukizungushana. Chai sawa, watu wapewe chai, lakini ipikwe chai ile ya kawaida.
Okay.
You know, the tea that is supposed to be tea. If people at all are going to be given tea, if people at all are going to be served lunch, let people be given something that is justifiable.
Okay.
But you have to remember at the same time, this is an employee. So you also, as much as it is motivation, let us have a meter of motivation, because this motivation is the one that is driving this corruption. You get? It is the one that is driving this excess use of resources, because that is the key point. It is not about any Kenyan or employee motivation or what, but it is about where our priorities as a country.
So we fight the corruption in the tea. Not fight the tea.
Not fight the tea. Let us fight the corruption in the tea.
We have agreed on that point.
That one we agree.
You get? And also let us have a meter of how this tea will be given. Not 10, lunch, 4 o'clock. This is not a kid in school. You get?
Me siwezi mind nikipatiwa mara mbili kwa siku. All right, so let's get back to the conversation that actually brought us to studio. We want to talk about, you know, the youth perspective of our politics. And Kamau, I'll just start with you. Right now, we are seeing a lot of conversations happening around the youth population. Opposition are trying to capture the youth audience. Government is trying to capture the youth audience. Literally everyone, even businesses right now, are trying to capture the youth audience. Are we headed in the right direction, or we are now just focused like the way in the past we focused so much on the girl child, you know, austerity measures, and in my opinion, we got to some kind of imbalance. Are we heading in the right direction as far as that is concerned?
But when we now start to center the conversation around the youth, that one actually we are so late. Myself, I had overseen this problem since 2020. And that is when I started becoming active. Immediately after I cleared campus, I was a year outside. I started my advocacy for young people in leadership, and in the last election, I did vie as a member of parliament. I was only 24, then 23.
What position did you come in that election?
The number 3.
Okay, that's
Yes.
a good number.
Good. Now, when we start motivating young people from the word go, that is, you know, in my culture, Kikuyu, we say that a herd that has no the calves, it is a dead herd.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The way we have so many cows and we don't have the small
calves, yeah.
That is
A problem.
That is a problem. So in any community where we have no motivated young people, that is a dead community. This country, for the longest time, we had not been motivating our youths. We had not been motivating our kids until these youths motivated themselves. And we said, what we know, enough is enough. We had gone through good education, free education, given everything. And then we were being told, when you're growing, do this and this and that, so that when you grow up, you'll get this. And most of these young people, by the time they were 27, everyone had done the math of where they want to be by that time. But now, this time when they are there, they had not achieved what they had dreamed of. So we are late, actually. We are very, very, very much late now when we are having this conversation. And it is good now we are having these conversations, because the government, the opposition, the organization, the business community, they know we cannot ignore these young people. And we have to really, really, really consider. I remember the former president sometime at Bomas, he said, these young people...
Which president?
Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay.
Yes, the retired president. He said, these young people are a time-ticking bomb. When time is, a time will come when they will erupt.
Okay.
And we have to come up with a strategy of how we are going to manage these young people.
And he was saying this when he was president.
He was saying this when he was president.
I see.
So he
You know,
and he was actually
that
saying
retired president is his party leader. But anyway, continue.
Oh, he was also my party leader.
Okay.
Yes.
All
then
right.
and then right now my party. I'm a member of Wiper, by the way. Wiper
Oh,
party.
so you shifted from Jubilee.
Yeah, I shifted from Jubilee.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So now back to the conversation. So we knew, he knew, that the government knew, but they didn't imagine at one given time it will come soon. But now it has come.
All
And
right.
now the shift has taken over the whole, not only in Kenya, not only in East Africa, in Africa, but also in the whole world.
All right.
So it is time that we have all this conversation. And going forward, we are going to ask ourselves a lot of questions. Going forward, we are going to ensure that, remember, these young people are, they are energetic and they don't tire. Remember the last time we met with advisor was the last maandamano.
Okay.
We were all charged up. You know, he's a learned person, a lawyer, but he is. We know what we want. You get. There's no way that we can be 70% of this country
Population-wise.
But we are getting 7% of the benefits.
All right. Advice, same question.
Yeah.
We now everyone is really centered on the youthful population. What are your thoughts?
First of all, Mbuvi, I don't think it's a now equation. The youth conversation has been here with us since independence. And every time there has always been, we near election, especially when we near election, the conversation is always centered around the young people. Why? Because they have always been the majority.
Yes.
That's why from the Moi time we used to have YK92. Up to today we had the Vijana na Kibaki.
Kulikuwa na young tax.
We had the young tax. But what is common denominator with all that time of the young people is that at every instance, the young people have always thought that it is that time that the conversation is happening. It has always been thought that it's now the time for the reawakening. When I read the history, during the YK92 and the young tax, the clamor of the young people was that this is now our time. We have not been listened to. It's now the time for the young people to be listened to. You come to the Vijana na Kibaki, the conversation was the same. Fast forward, today we are still having the same conversation, and every time we have it, we are also still thinking that now for the first time, this country is supposed to have a conversation about young people. So I think it is a matter of tact, and I think the person who has the least concern in terms of moving the conversation forward is more the young person himself. Because the problem that we are having, and that's why I'm very glad when
that statement again, the least person who did what?
the least person who is concerned about how this conversation should move forward is the young person himself.
Oh, really?
Exactly. That's why one of the things that makes me proud this morning is that my brother at least vied. He tried to be part of the solution. Because when you look at it today, everyone is planning for the young person except the young person. The young person is just planning to respond to the plans of others. So the young person must, at this level now, start planning on how do we take this conversation forward and what exactly do I want. Because if we do not decide what we want and start navigating the terrain to get what we want, we will only have options that will be presented to us by the other people who will have planned for us. And then later on, we'll still complain that our interests were not met. And the problem about being young, Mbuvi, is that you can only complain once or twice. By the time you complain the third time, there will be a young person who will be calling you part of the problem. So the issue is,
Yes.
we must be able to, for once, get it right. So that if there was and one of the things that is credited a lot to the young population today is the Gen Z uprising of 2024.
Yeah.
That was organic, and the young people went to the streets and they had an array of issues. They talked about governance, they talked about healthcare, they talked about education, they talked about the real things that they want. Now, the issue is this. The first thing that we have as a litmus test is the by-election, and the first one is happening about 3 months from today. Then we will have the election. But before we get to the election, we have a by-election. So, can the young people be able to organize in a manner that then in this by-election we see a very big difference and a shift in the voting pattern? Will the young person be able to clamor and be able to say, if our interest is that we think fellow young people can do a better job, are we going to coalesce around youthful candidates who have a promise for the nation and push them to prosperity and push them to the election win the same way, with the same zeal, zest and energy that we're trying to push for reforms?
Okay.
If we cannot be able to do that, then we must be able to know that we are just mushrooming and just doing the same thing the same way it was done since independence, and then expecting different results. So it is whereas the issue is here with us, the approach to it must be different. And the unfortunate thing is that the person who is least concerned about how to move it forward is the young person themselves.
Kamau, there's this for a very long time, actually since last year, when we had that maandamano, the youth have always been saying partyless, leaderless, tribeless, fearless. Is that still the case today? Does it make sense? That time it made sense because there are certain things that the youth wanted and they were agitating for, and they made it very clear. But now, as we are getting to 2027 campaign period, as we are now making critical decisions as to who's going to be our leader and at what point, does that slogan make sense anymore?
You know, my brother, politics is not just politics. Politics is something else. And allow me to use, for lack of a better word, politics is spiritual. And politics being spiritual, politics have gatekeepers. Now, what we were having last year, those were ideological problems. Education, finance bill, whatnot, economy. Then, now, those issues, they can only be sorted out through politics. And now being political problems, they need political solutions. And remember, politics is spiritual. Politics being spiritual, politics have gatekeepers. Just like maybe at your home city, it is your home. You're the gatekeeper of that home. I can't come just and enter. You get? Yeah. Just like as I was walking in here today, I didn't go through the fence. I would be treated as a thief, a criminal. I'll be shot, I'll be killed. I came through the gate. There's a gatekeeper. I came through the front door.
Yes.
I was treated serious. Yes, come in. Now, I didn't come through the back door. Where else there was also a gatekeeper there.
Yes.
But he will ask me, who are you? So I'll be treated less of a visitor. You get? Now, politics of this country, it has its gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers are political parties. And we have to understand there's a doctrine of gatekeepers. Remember, even in the Bible, when these people are going through Jerusalem, they had to go through people who knew well how to go through those gates.
Yes.
You get?
Yes.
So it is very, very much important right now, as a youth, as a politician in this country, have a sense of belonging.
Okay.
Now, depending on which belonging you want to belong to, each and every gate, the politics of this country have gatekeepers. Okay. And let us even mention them because they're in the public domain. We have the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta. We have to me, he is the senior most politician in the country. So he's the main gatekeeper. Raila, Ruto, Kalonzo, Gachagua, Weta, Mudavadi. No, those ones are huko nyuma. And now there are others who are coming.
Yeah. And
they are trying to eliminate some and taking over those gates. Now, depending on which gate you're coming through, it will depend on which seat or how much seriousness you'll be taken.
Yeah.
You'll be considered. And now we as young people,
yes,
we have to know that we cannot go into these spaces without having the knowledge of coexisting.
All right.
With these people.
Those people you've mentioned, the gatekeepers that you've mentioned, to me they actually are tribal kingpins. You've spoken about Kalonzo. Ukambani ndio kusema. You've spoken about Uhuru. in the Mount region yeye ndio kusema, but also now Gachagua ni kama sijui kama bado anasema, utaniambia wewe Mkikuyu. Kwa Waluya you've mentioned the Mudavadis and the Wetangula. So these are people who not only control parties but they also control tribes to an extent. So are we also saying
control
that
or represent?
they represent, control? Yeah, it depends on how you want to look at it.
To me, they represent,
Okay.
because they have to belong first.
All right.
No one chose where to be born.
Kweli?
You get?
So if we go with that word of represent,
Yes.
then this whole aspect of also being tribeless might not necessarily make sense come 2027. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It does not make any sense. Uhuru was the president and he was voted in by all tribes. You get? Yes. We voted Ruto last election, a Kalenjin, but he was voted by 47% of Kikuyus, Mount Kenya. You get?
Okay.
Raila the same. He is a Luo, but also was voted in by 10-15% of Mount Kenya people.
Yeah.
You get? So it is not about being tribal anymore. Right now, me and my brother here, we relate more without knowing. I actually don't know which tribe he's from. And I don't even care. Whether right now people are marrying from, that notion of tribe. It is good. We also need to appreciate our culture. But now when we are relating with you, let us relate on a human platform. You get?
But let me ask you this question.
Yes.
If what you say is true, and there is some element of truth to it, how is it then that these so-called tribal political leaders or gatekeepers, how is it then that they still have followers in large numbers?
From their community?
See,
or
the
from
conversation, no, they have followers in large numbers beginning with their community, then others. There is an underlying understanding here that you seem to be negating, how we identify ourselves. It's called identity.
Yes.
And it plays a very big role in our politics.
Yes.
The way we are brought up, the way we are socialized, is a key component of the cognitive processes in our mind and how we think. And when you bring a concept, these act as filters through which this information you have will pass through before you actually even contain it. Because with every information you have, first of all, there's your identity. That identity is embedded in your history. And then when it comes to the interpretation of this information, these two factors that I've mentioned play a very, very important role in how you interpret it. Now, the message I got from the Gen Zs was that they were moving away from this. They were saying, we are not part of this process. Because it's that cognitive process that makes me a Luo first, then a Kenyan second. Okay? And you're saying, no, I'm going to be a Kenyan first.
Then a lower second.
Yes. There are those who subscribe to faiths like the Christian faith who will say, I'm a Christian first. But you see, these influences don't really go away. The issue is how important they are and how they influence the decision-making process. The beauty of youth is that you have an almost unfettered capacity to be ingenious. You have an almost unfettered capacity to create ideas, follow them with energy.
A new world order.
Yes, when you're older, you're jaded. You are more reluctant than anything else to embrace anything new. Okay? Now, the question of gatekeepers. When you join a party and you have new ideas, I was providing a background for what I want to say.
Yeah.
You'll be coming into an ecosystem which has a domination of how certain people view the way they should handle the affairs of, say, that political party. All right?
Yes.
If I go by the example of our voting patterns in this country, the group that can be relied on to vote consistently as a group are women. Not the youth, not men. I liked what you said. The youth tend to be excluded from many conversations, but they're often their own worst enemies.
Yeah.
If a youthful leader were to present themselves as the president today, you are more likely to reject them even before you've heard what they want to say. Now, tell me I am wrong and then explain to me why I'm wrong with that statement.
No, you're not wrong, because I presented myself as a member of parliament of Limuru. And true to what you said, a big number of my voters were women. Get what I mean? The biggest number that opposed my candidates were the young people and men. You get?
Have you examined why it is they behave this way?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they are more focused on what they eat first. What do you have to provide first? They are more focused on here
They
now.
want money.
They want money, and that is the problem that we have as a country even now.
So
If
therefore,
I don't have anything, even now I belong to a political party or anyone in this country. If you don't have money, it's very hard.
now
That is the problem.
does it then not render the notion of the Gen Z revolution irrelevant? Because that was a protest, and if I'm to go by stereotyping that I've heard about the Gen Zs, which I personally don't actually believe, is that they have a short attention span. Some people say they're impatient. Impatience is a sign of a short attention span. But how do the youth, for instance, consume information?
Now, there's somewhere we are not mentioning city.
Yes.
These Gen Zs, we have different clusters of Gen Zs.
I agree. It's not one homogeneous group.
It is not one homogeneous
Yes, but
group.
it is presented as one. So I am discussing it in the manner in which it is presented. But thank you for mentioning that point. I was going to get there and say it is not possible for it to be homogeneous.
Yes.
However, there are certain points on which they will all tend to agree.
Yeah.
There has to be. Otherwise, there would have been no movement.
That is true.
There's something they agreed upon.
There's something we agreed upon.
Yes.
And what we agreed upon is there's one thing we always agree upon. Whether we're in opposition, there's one thing we love. We love fairness. We love to be fair.
Do you practice it?
Yes, we practice it.
If it was practiced, you would have been MP for Limu.
No. But no, there is not fairness. There is no fairness that is being played there.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, listen, City. When we come now to politics, now that's a different
Why is it
place.
different?
Because fairness does not play politics. It
Why?
does not have
Thank you for bringing that
space.
point. Why not? Why not? You know, the numbers that young people have is such a powerful force that I am actually, I surprise myself every day when I realize that it's like the one thing you ought to realize is the power that exists within your numbers. But you don't fully get it, if I may use that term. Because if you got it, you would have the strongest bargaining power in the country. Because the one thing about these political busybodies who call themselves our elected leaders, they are very finely tuned to what the citizenry think. Very finely tuned. If they know people don't like something in a certain direction, believe me, they'll change. They'll change. The impunity you see is because they know they will get away with it. And the one thing that the movement showed us last year was that these people can be held to account because we saw the fear, we saw the realization that actually they could actually lose their jobs, that they could actually be rendered irrelevant. We saw it. And we wouldn't have seen it if the Gen Zs did not do what they did. I'm not discussing the infiltration and what have you, but just that this group could come together. That in itself sent shock waves because it defied every logical political process that we had seen in this country. Because these older people believe that they're the ones who should determine how certain things happen. And that movement told them, sorry sir, that's not what we're thinking. No, that's actually not what we're thinking. We are thinking that we need to have a say in this thing, and you did have a say.
Now, Gen Zs, they have done a course called fairness. They it as a course, they are pursuing it as a course. But in this course called fairness is a unit called politics. Just like in accounting is a course, and in accounting there's a unit called mathematics
And law.
Yes. And not all of them love politics. Not all of them love law. Just like not all of them love mathematics. But I have gone for. And maybe even if not mathematics, in accounting as a course, there is a unit called philosophy. So you ask yourself, where on earth am I going to use this philosophy in counting? I'm just going to negate it and leave it and
assume it.
If that question isn't answered, then you have a poor teacher.
I'd like to get Mundalo's voice on this, because it's either you're observing because you agree, or you're observing because you disagree and you don't want to put your opinion in it. But what do you think?
I like the conversation, and that's why I was listening very, very keenly. And there's something my brother said, that politics has
Which brother?
gatekeepers. Him.
I am not your brother.
No, you're my elder.
You are elder.
Elder brother,
Really, you are not Christian.
Yes.
you're our elder brother.
In real sense, you are our father.
Yes.
Yes.
And there was something is talked about the politics having gatekeepers, which I agree. But I disagree with the gatekeepers that he then chose on that. The same way there was the mention of the tribal kingpins.
Yes.
And you said they control tribes.
Okay.
And City said
They represent.
I think I would want to agree with you more than with them, because they control more than they represent. But then in the first aspect of who exactly is the gatekeeper of politics, the gatekeeper of our politics is the people. Because for every leader that we have, that leader comes from the people. It is the people who give these people the legitimacy to then come and represent. So for every bad thing that we think the leader is doing, the first stab that we should be able to be throwing, when we are throwing the spear, the first person we should be looking to hit is ourselves first. But because we love to be thinkers that want to make ourselves more sane than anyone else, we like pointing out to others more than to ourselves. And so the people are the first gate of the politics. It would not matter what his party leader thought at the time when he was running. If the people thought he was good enough to represent them, he would be a member of parliament today. We have so many independent members of parliament. We have members of parliament who have lost elections because the people have actually decided against that leader. So, for once, we must also be able to have the confidence to blame the people. Let us not always treat the people with kid gloves, as though we must blame everyone else except them. When we're talking about poor governance, when we talk about a governor who is not doing the work well, and a member of parliament, an MCA, we must first of all have the confidence and the courage to look ourselves in the eye and say, it started with us. So for me, that is the first gatekeeper. And then when we come to those tribal kingpins, why don't I think they represent? It is because representation is legitimate. You are voted in, you become a member of parliament, you become this. But you see, our tribal kingpins, there is no caucus that elects them in anything.
Yeah.
They just wake up one day
and become.
Yes. So, and then when they become, the people accept that they have actually become, and then we accept to be led by them. Then we accept to be controlled by them. So we cannot be able to blame them again when it is ourselves who have accepted to be controlled by them. When we as a community, when we as the Kamba community have sat down and agreed among ourselves and agreed that Kalonzo will control us, we cannot blame Kalonzo. In the event we feel that that control is wrong, we would actually be able to read from a different script. So that is exactly what I think. And so what do young people now stand to do?
Just like they did with Uhuru.
Yeah, so exactly like the Mount Kenya community. They when it came to the election, they delinked and said, no, on this particular one, we will go this direction and not the other direction. Of course, I have a problem when later on, when they want to excuse their manners, they again start saying, we are sorry, we needed to have listened. Yeah. Now that's where I have a problem with.
Why?
Because then...
Why do you have a problem?
I have a problem because then that is failure to have consistency. Because we as the people...
Are we not allowed to change our mind?
Whereas we are allowed to change our mind, it cannot be an excuse for everything. Otherwise, even failure of exams would just say, we changed our mind.
No.
Even for everything, we would be able to just say,
with exams, bro, sometimes they don't bring what you read. ulisoma everything and the thing section which you didn't read.
Is the one they bring.
The examiner changed his mind on what you read.
I think your balls. I think as
so when it goes
maybe finish up.
okay. So when it goes to now, how then can now the young people position themselves? First of all, young people must be cognizant of the reality of the politics. So that first of all, we must understand that we cannot be able to claim leadership by age. Because the country does not need age.
Thank you.
This country has no shortage of... The problem of the country is not age, neither is it gender. So every time we have conversations where our leadership want to have a conversation around age,
Yes.
I tend to think there is a problem. If anything, this is the youngest government since independence.
Yeah.
This is the youngest president since independence. This is why, when you look at our chair of the finance committee, that is the youngest chair of the finance committee since independence.
Among the youngest
when you talk
members of
about
parliament.
the PS of Youth Affairs, Fikirini Jacobs, I tend to think that's the youngest minister we have actually had as a country since independence. When we talk about the chair of the budget committee, when we talk about how many members of parliament are actually young people, when we talk about the Senate majority leader, when we talk about the minority leader, we have a lot. This is actually the youngest government since independence. But it is also the government that is most rejected by young people since independence to an uproar. So the problem of the country is not age. And so my generation must be able to first of all understand that being young is not qualification for leadership.
Okay.
And my generation must also be able to understand that the old is not the problem. Just because someone is older than you does not mean they are a problem. And we must also be able to understand that just because they are older than us, that it doesn't mean they did nothing.
They did nothing.
The problem with us is that we reason like we are the best piece of sliced bread that has just happened to this country. This country was led by 24 years, and it took someone to fight for the democracy that we have. So we must first of all appreciate where we have come from.
Okay.
Appreciate what has been done so far, and appreciate that we can also be guided. Once we appreciate to be guided and to be mentored, then we'll get it right politically. Then we'll get into the politics, the political mind of knowing how the politics is played, than going with an idealist mind. Most of us are going into the politics with an idealist mind. That the reason, like today, you ask most young people who want to run for office, what is their reason for running for office? Most of them will not give you a tangible reason.
Yeah.
Most of them will give you an activist-like reason. Like, it is our time.
It is our time.
Whose time? Who told you?
Time for what?
Time for
Time
what?
to do
Exactly.
what?
But so you see,
Yeah.
you must be able to have that kind of understanding, and then that will be able to see us get into the politics and see how to now navigate it rightfully. And then we as a generation must also be able to coalesce around ourselves and understand that some of the things that we do are not necessarily good manners. For instance, we shout down almost all young people who try to emanate.
Really?
So, yeah, most of the young people, look at the Gen Z time, for instance. Most of the headlining young people who came up at the time are now not as popular as they were then,
Yeah.
because they have really been beaten. My friend Morara has kept resigning and coming back and resigning. Again.
And you
Yeah,
know,
and
actually,
getting-
that young man meant good
because
for that country. Just a minute, because you mentioned him. That young man, to be specific, he meant good for this
Morara
country.
Kebaso, to be
Morara
specific.
Kebaso, to be specific.
Okay.
That young man really had the
passion.
the passion and the will of the people at. Remember, he started like comedy, but comedy is art. It is born from something that is with you. So what was his comedy? By attacking the president.
Okay.
Nilikuja hapa. Oh my friend, hii project
Tukatenga.
tukafanya by imitating the president, using his voice, and he meant good, but also he had a problem. He didn't understand the doctrine of politics of this land. That is the problem.
All right.
Again,
You finish
and
your
that
point?
is where now
I have
we
a
get
question
lost.
for Kamau.
Good.
I didn't finish, and I was just actually using that to explain where some of our pitfalls have been as young people, whereby we have a lot of unity in situations that are less glorious.
Yes.
In situations of suffering, we are more united. And most of the time, when one of the young people seems to want to move forward, we want to again wholesomely pull them back.
Why
We-
do you
we
do
want
that?
to- we want to
I
be-
want to understand this. Why do you do that?
And I think it's just the issue of there's a lot of unity in misery. Yeah, and so because and you look at it,
rivalry, sibling.
Yeah, because it
rivalry.
does not just happen in politics. It happens in the entertainment space. It happens in the whatever. You'll see that most of us are very happy when you are coming up and you are in a problem and whatever. But then the moment you start looking like you are about to make it, now we have a problem. We will laugh movie when he's brought to
are we
saying Kenyan, but the moment movie starts buying a car,
but
now we start having.
But do you understand that what you're describing is a process of maturity?
Get true.
Yeah.
Emotional maturity. Envy is part and parcel of our makeup.
Yeah.
All the vices that we display and you're talking about are part and parcel. Now, maturity is when you understand them and you learn to harness them and you learn to think beyond your feelings.
Exactly.
Is there room for idealism in youth politics?
There is actually room for ideal, but then what you've just actually started with, the aspect of maturity, I think it is the most fundamental subject. But you see, you can only be able to mature from a situation if you understand that you are actually suffering from immaturity. But if you are not yet aware of the problem yourself, then you cannot be able to get out of it. So first of all,
you're saying young people don't understand, they're not mature.
Most of us, to be very honest, most of the young people would not judge themselves as immature.
They believe they're mature, and then they believe they're cleverer than all of us old crocodiles.
Exactly.
To add on what you say.
Why, really?
How
do you arrive at this notion that you're cleverer than people who are older than you, and that you know more than they do? How do you arrive at that notion?
I think it is an upbringing matrix, whereby part of the blame game I also put on the older generation, because for some time they treated the young people as though they know everything, and at some point it got into the young person's head, because in the aspect of upbringing there is a place where the older folks needed to be able to correct, to discipline, to be able to say this is wrong. Now, there are times when, especially in this generation that is now being called the Gen Z generation, a lot of that was able to actually be lacking. So most of the time, even when the generation was wrong, it was embraced and it was taught to be right. You remember there was a time during the President Uhuru administration where there was rampant banning of schools. I don't know if you remember that time.
It didn't start in the Uhuru time, but in the Uhuru time, it was very visible.
It was very visible and it was too rampant at that time. And it started with about 2 schools. Then it went to 4 schools. Then suddenly it became a countrywide thing. But then what did governments do at the time? The government chose to blame the teachers. They blamed everyone else except the student. And for me, I feel like this is some of the things that started pointing to some of this problem. Even when you look at the Gen Z revolution and the protest, whereas the protest went into, let us agree with the children, they are right, and like that, including the church. Even the church was not willing to point out on anything that was a misdemeanor. Everyone went to say, no, the children are right. And now it is yourselves, city, who have fattened a bull. And now this bull is getting out of control. So this is the reason why, I would tell you, this is the reason why most of the young people today, they really think they know everything. And unlike my brother here, who you would be able to have this engagement that you're having with him, I can assure you that 80% of the young people, if you had this banter with them, they would get annoyed and walk out.
Actually, they would walk away.
They would walk away from you.
Why would they walk away?
Because they just cannot take another opinion, an alternative view.
Other than the
let me try to answer you, and I tend to a little bit differ.
Yes.
That you parents are the ones who, remember we are talking of a generation here called Gen Z. These young people, to be in specific, these young people, Gen Z, majority of their parents are the Gen X. these parents of Gen X were brutal. And growing up, my father was a disciplinarian, and I'll tend to agree to that, to disagree to that first. But now the problem, now to add on what he has said, is exposure. These young kids were given free education, free everything, free everything free. So to now, it now became a disciplinary issue, that I can only be given whatever I want at whatever given time I want. That is why whatever I have conditioned in my brain, I have to get that, without knowing that I have to wake up and work for it. Remember, those were the principles in school. But in this world, there are principles of this world. Hawezi hata uamke uombe and then urudi ulale ati utapata pesa. You have to wake up, you have to get rejected, you have to work, you have to be fired, people have to spit on you. Gen Zs, they don't know that. And that is why unasikia hata saa hizi ati HR hizi niambia kitu ati nimechelewa, ati nimekuja na dready, nimekuja na short, it's an official day, I'm supposed to have a suit on, nini ati nimekuja na short nini, you know, and because it's an exposure issue that, and also now this is where we blame the parents. The parents think no, jua watu wamesoma sana, they know too much kutuliko.
Okay.
And now that is where our parents
HR
did not.
If I can just have a mention of that.
Yeah.
And he has talked about the aspect of HR and even the dress code and whatever. But what is happening in the world today? We are having now people having to start trainings. And what are they saying from a HR perspective? How do we start creating a working environment that is conducive for the Gen Z, that is conducive for the young person? So it is more or less the world now. Everyone is trying to adjust to the young person. And that is why the young person will constantly continue to believe that he is right.
Does the young person know that they're actually being cocooned and being put in a trap?
They are not aware.
Now they're not aware.
They are not aware.
Because now
no one is telling them. No one is facing them with that kind of reality. Because everyone is only being able to change the world to suit them. And what my friend is describing as having grown up with the kind of parent that he has said, that is the millennials, not the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
There's quite a difference. It's a thin line in between. So for me, it's about, can the world start also looking directly in the eyes of the young people and be able to say, this is right?
Do you think that
wrong?
young people are brought up to understand the simple concept of responsibility?
Now let me answer that with a practical issue. I have been too, because now here what we're doing is
30 seconds.
politics.
We are running out of time.
Yes. So I within some few times, whenever I'm in a restaurant and I'm served by a certain lady, a gentleman, I'll always ask them, will you vote? Do you have a registration card? Do you have, a voter's card?
ID card.
Will you vote? And they're like, no. And I'm okay. Ruto must go? Yeah, Ruto must go. And I'm like, how will he go? Why won't you vote? Mr. Taki could vote. I will not wake up. And remember, I have gone. I've participated in an election and have hunted for votes. There is nothing difficult in the life of a politician than that period of hunting for votes.
Okay.
It's very hard. You're lied to. You're done. Everything is done to you, and then people do not wake up to do. And now these are the same people they want us to change. I still don't believe, and they are yet to convince me so much. And I want to call on them. They have to wake up, take those votes. Otherwise, this Ruto must go. Tabaki kwa theatrics.
10 seconds, I'll allow you at least to have some final sentiments.
Thank you, Mbui. First of all, thank you for having us. And I'll just say the same thing, that as young people, for us to move the country forward, we must not be shy of understanding the country realities. I have had conversations here with you, here at Radio Generation, with some of your Gen Zs here, who would be able to tell me, Ruto must go. But when I ask them why, can we discuss the why?
They don't
have a why. Can we discuss the why? And we've had these conversations here during your photo taking session. And most of them cannot actually discuss the why. I have had conversations with some of them working in different offices, even in government. There's a time I told them, you are saying Ruto must go. You are an intern. Are you aware you are a product of government internship program that has been enhanced by this administration? Then they got shocked. So whereas I don't want to affect anyone's thinking about who must go and who must remain. But I must be able to tell them that for us to move the country forward, we must start thinking objectively. And to think objectively, we must start interrogating issues for what they are.
Okay.
Not for what our feelings and emotions are and slogans.
Gentlemen, I'd like to invite you again next week. Let's continue with this conversation about the country and the youth perspective. That's Mundalo Advice, MD 2 Cents Leadership Institute, anchored by one Kamau Mbiu, Chair National Youth Caucus.
Ruto must go. I have the reasons why.